So we talk about the conditions of assumptions that have to be made for a population to be constant according to the Hardy-Weinberg principle. Now let's talk about the mechanisms of evolution that can actually disturb the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. This includes mutations, natural selection, non-random mating, genetic drift, and gene flow. For instance, mutations can disrupt the equilibrium of allele frequencies by introducing new alleles into the population. Similarly, natural selection and non-random mating can disturb the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium because they result in changes in the gene frequencies. This occurs because certain alleles help or harm the reproductive success of the organism that carry them. Another factor that can upset this equilibrium is genetic drift, which occurs when allele frequencies grow higher or lower by chance, and typically takes place in small populations. Gene flow, which occurs when breeding between two populations transfer new alleles into the population, can also alter the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Now, because all of these disruptive forces commonly occur in nature, the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium actually rarely applies in reality. So therefore, the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium describes an idealized state, and the genetic variations in nature can be measured as changes from this equilibrium state. This is what I meant when I said that scientists actually calculate the frequencies, and there is changes to that frequency. They have to actually find out, and they will have to study what causes these changes, because there should be evolution that give rise that causes the frequencies to change. All right, so these are the 5 mechanisms that can make a population to be not at equilibrium. Okay, not at Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Let's look into these assumptions or disturbance natural forces one by one. Genetic drift, non-infinite population size. Evolution refers to the change in heritable traits of a population over generations. Genetic drift involves changes in the allele frequency due to chance events. Kind of like sampling error in selecting alleles for the next generation. Drift can occur in any population of non-finite size, but it has a stronger effect on a smaller size population. Chance events can means natural disasters, banjir ke, gempa bumi ke, something like that lah. Okay, chance yang berlaku secara naturally and unknown, not planned, something like that. Okay, so due to that, so if you look into this previous generation, due to chance event, only these 3 beetles leave the offspring. Only 3 beetles leave offspring. So these 3, due to chance event, maybe berlaku natural disaster, all of these other beetles dia mati kot. Okay, sebab natural disaster. So all of these tinggal 3 beetles, this is what's left, and all diorang je yang boleh mate, and diorang je yang boleh melahirkan offspring untuk the next generation. So you see here, all the beetle with the dominant allele, they didn't survive the natural disaster, the chance events. Can be natural disasters, right? Can be a big migration, like burung kan suka migrate kan, right? So there is no allele, dominant allele, so berlaku perubahan, so not at equilibrium. E is equilibrium, right? there are two types of genetic drift. Genetic drift is the kind of like is the opposite of natural selection. Um, you have bottleneck effect and the founder effect. Now, let's talk about how genetic drift is different from natural selection. Uh, the theory of natural selection maintains that some individuals in a population have traits that enable to survive. Excuse me. It is said that natural selection actually maintains that some individuals in that population have traits that enable to survive and produce more offspring, while other individuals they have traits that are detrimental and may cause them to die before they reproduce. Survival of the fittest lah, lebih kurang. So over successive generation, these selection pressures can change the gene pool and the traits within the population. For example, if we have a big powerful male gorilla, it will mate with more females. It will get to partner with more females gorilla sebab more preferable, big and powerful. This female gorilla will not prefer a small, weak male gorilla. So, the small, weak male gorilla that is not preferable won't be able to reproduce. Because dia tak dapat nak partner dengan sesiapa, so dia tak boleh nak transfer dia pass over dia punya gametes kepada offspring dia, and then dia mati before dia reproduce, and so his gene will not be passed on. In comparison to the big and powerful male gorilla, so his genes will be able to pass on to the next generation, and his offspring may continue to dominate this group and pass on their genes as well. So this is natural selection. Over time, the selection pressure will cause the allele frequencies in the gorilla population to shift toward the large and strong males. Okay, yang weak males tu semua tak ada. Over time lah, dia tak terus hilang, dia akan progressively from one generation to the next generation. But unlike natural selection, genetic drift, okay, is not natural selection. Describe the effect of chance event on that population in the absence of positive and negative selection pressure. Through random sampling or the survival or the reproduction of a random sample of the individual within that population, allele frequencies within a population may change. Rather than a male gorilla producing more offspring because he is stronger, kalau dalam genetic drift berlaku chance event, tinggal dia je yang survive in that population, so he is the only male available for the female to partner with. Okay, yang lain memang dah tak ada. So in terms of genetic drift, it's not about selection pressure. Bukan sebab dia lagi preferable among the female gorilla. It's about tinggal dia je ada dalam population tu, lelaki yang male gorilla in that population. So nak tak nak, the female have to partner with them, with the male gorilla, and they have produce offspring untuk kemajuan spesies lah. Right, so that is the difference between genetic drift and natural selection. Okay, it's genetic drift is the shift of allele within that population due to chance events like natural disaster that can cause a random sampling of that population to reproduce atau tidak. So now let's back to the types of genetic drift. We have bottleneck effect and we have founder effect. Now, bottleneck effect. is when some major disaster or event that kills off a lot of the population, so only a little bit of that population member is able to survive. Ni macam sama macam yang tadi lah, yang sebelah ni. Okay, for some weird reason natural disaster occurs and then kill off some of the members of the population, and tinggal this part of the population to reproduce for the next generation. So in this time, example, human is the disaster that occurs among the ladybird, right? So you have an equal ratio of red and blue ladybugs, and then comes human with the swatter and kills off the blue ladybug. Now the ratio is not equal anymore. We have now 5-1. Only this remaining blue ladybug is able to reproduce. So now the number of red ladybug is bigger than the blue ladybug. Alright. Now, founder effect. Founder effect is when the population become very small, but not due to a natural disaster. Okay, we'll look into it a little bit more after this. Alright. Genetic drift can also be magnified by natural events such as natural disaster that kills a large portion of that population at random. The bottleneck effect occurs when only a few individuals survive and reduces variation in the gene pool of that population. So, kenapa dia panggil bottleneck effect? So, imagine a very large population, right? And then natural disaster occur here. So, a part of a large portion of this population, they won't survive, so tinggal sikit je. So these surviving individuals, they have different allele frequency, they will have to reproduce. So this is the next generation will change. So this is bottleneck effect. Oops. So another scenario in which population might experience a strong influence of the genetic drift is some of the population actually leave to start a new population in a new location. So that is actually the founder effect. It's not about natural disaster yang berlaku dekat situ. It's just that maybe dia dah bosan dengan population tu, so they just decided let's leave this place and move to somewhere else. Something like that lah. So and then in that new population, they are the founder of that population. They have a less genetic variation, and then so they somehow change the frequencies of that population, because from a larger population they become a small new colonies. So yes, so this is founder effect. So again, tengok gambar pun dah tahu this is bottleneck effect. This is one larger population. Some of them migrate to form a new smaller population. So this is founder effect. So dua-dua ni adalah, these both are genetic drift, types of genetic drift.